Friends, today Mahendra Guru is coming with a new program for you, particularly those students who have cleared the preliminary of Grameen Bank PO and public sector banks POs. In the final of these exams, you will be having a component of general awareness. In this program, we are trying to highlight some of the important GA general awareness events that have happened and which are relevant for your exams. In addition, we will be talking about one particular aspect of banking which has been quite relevant recently, and you could expect questions from that. So in this program, we are highlighting only those things which are totally relevant from in respect of your coming examinations. So friends, the first things that we'll take up today is for your general awareness. And in general awareness, we are taking up the thing that happened a few days back, that is the Nobel Prizes that were given. Now, you know, Nobel Prizes are given for 6 subjects: physics, chemistry, physiology and medicine, literature, peace and economics. Now in physics, as you have already, I am sure that you must have read and you must have seen the newspapers, the Nobel Prize were given to Rainier Weiss, Barry C. Barish and Kip S. Thorne for their contribution to the LIGO detector and the observation of the gravitational waves. Gravitational waves were first postulated by Einstein decades back. These scientists have proved Einstein's postulate. Now, the questions that will be put to you in the IBPS test may not be direct questions. Like, they may not ask you who won the Physics Nobel Prize, but they may ask you which theory, the theory of which scientist was proved recently by certain physicists, and the options that will be given to you will have the name of Dr. Einstein. Similarly, the chemistry, it was about microbiological structures, biological structures in solution. So there will not be direct questions, but there will be indirect questions. Chemistry Nobel Prize were given to Jacques Dobet, Joachim Frank and Richard Henderson. Similarly, in physiology and medicine, it has been given to Jeffrey C. Hall, Michael Robisch and Young for their theory on the theory regarding molecules. Now, in literature, Mr. Kazuo Ishiguro, who is a Japanese author settled in Britain, he has got a Nobel Prize for his novels. Nobel Peace Prize, of course, went to INCAN, or International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, as they are doing a lot of work in the world to abolish the use of nuclear weapons, holding of nuclear weapons. As we have seen nowadays, there is a tussle going on between USA and the North Korea. North Korea is claiming to having a lot of nuclear weapons which they are threatening to use on America, and every day there is some threat coming up from North Korea or from America. These things have made the world unstable, and the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons have played a big part in controlling such things. The Nobel Prize for economic sciences, which is also known as the Severus Richbank Prize, have been given to Richard H. Thaler. Richard H. Thaler is a behavioral economist who has propagated the hedging theory. Now, what is the hedging theory? The hedging theory is that you hedge somebody, you nudge him towards doing something. You nudge a person. Nudge. What is nudge? Nudge is trying to push him towards a behavior. So, he has given a theory that to bring about a certain behavioral pattern in a person, you have to nudge him or push him towards that behavior. So that is Mr. Thaler's theory. Now, our own Varanasi, an important city in India, this has also got some connection with the Nobel Prize winner of this year. American scientist Professor Joachim Frank has a close Varanasi associate, Rajendra Kumar Agarwal, a molecular biologist from BHU who has worked with him for 7 years, and so this is how this year's Nobel Prize winner of this year is connected with Varanasi. There was a news recently that the government had rejected a proposal of the Election Commission to amend the Representation of People's Act to bar candidates from contesting parliamentary or assembly elections if they are not cleared the utility bills like house rent in government accommodation, electricity or water bills. As you know, that lot of people, they do not clear the utility bills, and particularly political persons, and so this action of the Election Commission, but it was not accepted by the government. There was also news recently that our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Damodar Das Modi visited his hometown in Gujarat, that is Vadnagar, where he was born. You should be also aware that he had his initial education at BN High School, Vadnagar. We are often, China has claimed, recently also it claimed in Doklam, that certain areas close to the Sikkim border belong to it. And to quote that, to support their claims, they quote the 1890 UK-China Treaty. So, we have to remember that the claims of China are based on the 1890 UK-China Treaty. There was also a very important news recently that one of the international airports in this country is to be Aadhaar enabled. Aadhaar enabled means that as soon as you enter the airport, you rectify your Aadhaar number, Aadhaar details, and you go in unchecked, all your security is done, and you check in within 10 minutes. This airport that is going to be Aadhaar enabled by December 2018 is Bengaluru's Kempagowda International Airport. Now the question that will be asked to you people will be which will be the first airport in India to be Aadhaar enabled. Most probably they will not give you the options by the cities like Bangalore, Calcutta, etc., etc. They are not going to give. IBPS is probably going to give you the name of the airport. That is, you have to remember that it is Kempagowda International Airport that is going to be first Aadhaar enabled airport in India. Now, Reserve Bank of India has brought several public sector banks under the preventive corrective action. OBC was the last bank to be brought under this, and up to now there are 7 public sector banks under preventive corrective action. They are the Central Bank of India, the IDBI Bank, UCO Bank, Dena Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Bank of Maharashtra, and the Oriental Bank of Commerce. You could be given a question where there could be a negative choice, that is, they can ask you which of these banks are not under the preventive corrective action. So they can give you 4 options of banks that are already there, and 1 bank will be there which are not under the preventive corrective action. So you should remember the names of the 7 banks which are under preventive corrective action, so that you can identify the bank which is not under preventive corrective action. Reserve Bank of India has recently issued a directive to e-retailers. E-tailers or e-retailers are persons like Amazon, Snapchat, etc., who take orders on the line and supply goods through merchants or sellers. Now what happens is that the customers pay directly to the Amazon or e-retailer, and e-retailer was not paying the merchants in time, due to which there were a lot of complaints coming to the Reserve Bank of India. Now Reserve Bank of India has directed the e-retailers that they should settle payments of the merchants sellers within 2 days. There was also a very gratifying news for India that Dr. Soumya Swaminathan has been appointed as Deputy DG of WHO. Dr. Soumya Swaminathan is at present the Director General of ICMR and Secretary Department of Health Research. I may add that she is also the daughter of a very reputed father, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who is the agricultural scientist, the most reputed agricultural scientist of India. You must also be aware that recently the GST was amended and it was reduced on 27 items. Death occurred recently of the Marshal of the Indian Air Force, the oldie Marshal, the first Marshal and oldie Marshal of the Indian Air Force, Dr. Sri Arjun Singh. Now, it may be that at any time somebody may ask you the full name of Arjun Singh, which you should know, S. Arjun Singh Aulak. He lived a long life from 1919 to 2017. Now, as we know, nowadays the nuclear weapons are in use because of North Korea and America. We should know that which are the nations that are holding nuclear weapons, which are the nations that are holding the biggest stockpile of nuclear weapons. That is, after Russia and USA, it is France 300, China 260, UK 250, Pakistan 130, India 120, and Israel 80. North Korea is down somewhere, but it is threatening a nation, that is USA, that holds one of the largest nuclear weapons. You all must be aware that Shri Rajneesh Kumar has been appointed as Chairman of State Bank of India for 3 years. He succeeded Srimati Arundhati Bhattacharya, who demitted office recently. You must be also knowing that after a long tussle in the FTII, that is Film and Television Institute of India. Its chairman Gajendra Chauhan had demitted office, and he has been succeeded by Shri Anupam Kher, a famous actor of the Indian cinema. Recently, GIC Re, General Insurance Company, Reinsurer, RE means reinsurer, the biggest reinsurer of India, has offered a IPO. The main point about this IPO is that it is for a value of 11,372 crores, and it is the largest financial IPO in India so far. It's largest financial IPO, but there has been IPOs larger than this. Coal India 15,200 crores, Reliance Power 11,560 crores. So these were the biggest IPOs, and after that now we have got the largest financial IPO coming in from GICRE at 11,372 crores. In the news recently, we are having an abbreviation RERA, R-E-R-A. Now what does RERA means? That is the Real Estate Regulatory Authority Act that controls builders and gives teeth to allottees against builders. You know, builders were taking money from allottees and not giving them the houses for a long time. They were giving them substandard houses, and for all this to control their activities, a new act was passed by the Parliament, and this RERA Act has now come into effect in many states, and in fact in most of the states in India. Recently, the Government of India issued the Sovereign Gold Bond, third series during this financial year 2017-18. It was issued on 9/10/17. Its price was 2,956 rupees per gram. The term was 8 years, interest 2.5%. Minimum you could subscribe was 1 gram and maximum 4 gram for individual HUF and 20 gram for trust in 1 year. Now, what are the advantages of sovereign gold bond? It is a paper bond. You don't have to hold any gold with you. It is tradable anytime through stock exchanges, NSE and BSE. It is available in demat and paper form and can be used as a collateral for loans. Now, sovereign gold bond is also a very important matter. It is very important for your exam from the view of question. So a question could be put to you on any of these figures that are given there. They can ask you which series of gold bond were issued recently. Now this is the third series issued in 2017-18. What was the price? They can ask you the price. Price has been changed every time. Term, general items like term, interest rate, minimum, maximum. Usefulness of the gold bond can be held in demat form or paper form. It is given back in gold or in paper or in money. All this can be asked you. So please go through this also carefully. Recently, a new thing has come before the Supreme Court of India. As you know, the Supreme Court has been quite active. They have given their rulings on triple talaq and right of on various rights and all those things. Now, recently a new thing, living will, has come. What is a living will? A living will is a will by a person during his lifetime. Living will. Will means it is a will that specifies about his life. Now what happens sometimes due to accident or other old age diseases, a person's brain goes dead, and when his brain goes dead, he is held on life support system, and life support system is sometimes a very painful experience for a person. The doctors and everyone knows that his life cannot be subsisted. Still, he is held on a life support system. So, living will is a document by a person specifying that if she slides into a vegetative state. Vegetative state is the state when the brain becomes dead. The heart is beating, but the brain is dead. The debilitated existence should not be prolonged with the help of life support system. That is, he gives the consent during his lifetime when he is okay, that if it happens to him that he becomes brain dead, he should not be allowed to live on a life support system. Supreme Court is now seized with the matter. Supreme Court, as you know, has already given its decision on passive euthanasia, and now they are holding this matter whether living will should be allowed. Supreme Court bench has remarked during the preliminary hearing of the case that to die peacefully without suffering is a right under Article 21. But on commit suicide, but one cannot allow a person to commit suicide. However, one has a right to say, while dying, let me not suffer. So, living will, what is a living will? We should know what is a living will. Now, recently, another advisory body on economic matters to the Prime Minister, that is the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, has been revived, and Mr. VivekBindra has been appointed as its chairman. It had its first meeting on 11/10/17, and the members of this committee are Mr. VivekBindra as chairman, Ratan P. Wattle, Ratin Roy, and Suresh Balla and Ashima Goyal. Mr. Ratan P. Wattle is also the member secretary. These people, these gentlemen, this lady, this respected lady and this gentleman met on 11/10/17, and 10 themes were identified by the Economic Advisory Council, around which implementable recommendations will be given to the Prime Minister. That is, what are the themes? Now, the question could come on a theme. Which of these themes were identified by the Economic Advisory Council? You could be asked. Or you could be also asked a negative question. Which of these themes were not identified by the Economic Advisory Council? Therefore, you should be well aware about the 10 themes that have been decided, have been identified by the Economic Advisory Council. The themes are economic growth, employment and job creation, informal sector and integration, monetary policy, fiscal framework, public expenditure, institutions and economic governance, agriculture and animal husbandry, patterns of consumption and production, and social sector. These are the 10 themes that have been identified. Please see these 10 themes and remember these 10 themes. There could be a positive or negative question coming into you from the IBPS in your final of PO tests that are going to be held shortly. Friends, today we saw some of the important general awareness points, general awareness matters that are relevant for your coming exams. We will take a short break After that, today we will be discussing the marginal cost of funds lending rate. Marginal cost of funds based lending rate. Friends, now we come to the second part of our lecture today. Now, what is marginal? Today we will discuss what is this marginal cost of funds lending rate. To understand this better, let us go back a little. Initially, the banks were using lending rate based on the prime lending rates. Prime lending rates were based, with effect from 1/7/2010, were based on average cost of funds, marginal cost of funds, and blended cost of funds. Now, these things, these were a type of calculation. These were the benchmark rates. The prime lending rate was a benchmark rate for a particular bank, and they used to calculate this prime lending rate on average cost of funds, marginal cost of funds, and blended cost of funds. But what was happening is that the marginal rate was nowhere, due to which the customers were forced to pay higher rates of interest even though the market rate of funds were less. So, another thing that happened was that in the year 2014-15, 15-16, while the Reserve Bank of India lowered its rate, that is its repo rate, 3 to 4 times, the banks did not respond equally well, due to which the government and the Reserve Bank of India both became very concerned, and a committee was appointed under Mr. Necachet Moore to examine what could be done to make the benchmark rates more effective. Mr. Necachet Moore suggested the MCLR, Marginal Cost of Fund Lending Rate method, which came into force from 1/4/16. On and after 1/4/16, all loans and reviews made by the bank regarding the loan portfolios were to be based on the marginal cost of fund lending rate. This was an internal bank's internal benchmark, and every bank was supposed to come up with their benchmark rates. Now, let us see what is this MCLR all about. Now, first is MCLR consists of various components. The first thing that has to be considered while arriving at the MCLR is the marginal cost of fund, cost of borrowing, and return on net worth. Now, marginal cost of fund. What is marginal cost? Marginal cost means what is the cost now, irrespective of the cost of the funds to the bank. Now, I'll try to explain it better. Now, banks have taken funds at various rates. Suppose you are deposited a fixed deposit with the bank, and the bank has promised to give you 10% interest some days back, some years back. And that is for about 7 years or 8 years in the bank. Today, the same deposit for the same period carries only 6% or 7% interest. Even though you are getting 10% interest, the marginal cost of funds to the bank for that particular deposit, for that particular fund, will be worked at only 7% of the present cost, not the cost at which it was given. So, For this, the Reserve Bank of India has given a calculation matrix based on which every bank has to calculate its marginal cost. Marginal cost means deposit cost as well as borrowing cost. Borrowing cost is more or less based on the repo rate fixed by the Reserve Bank of India. But borrowing fund costs have varied from bank to bank because at the time they took the funds, the fund cost was something else, but today the cost is something else. So the marginal cost of funds are calculated on the present rates, on the number of funds the bank has got. So there is a matrix on which it is calculated. The second factor that will influence the MCLR is negative carry-on account of CRR. All of you know CRR, cash reserve ratio. It is fixed by the Reserve Bank of India, a particular percentage of the net time and demand liabilities of the bank, which every scheduled commercial bank has to keep in cash with the Reserve Bank of India. However, nowadays it is 4%, but for this amount of deposit with the Reserve Bank of India, the Reserve Bank of India is paying no interest to the banks. As a result of which, there is a cost on CRR because of CRR to the banks. So this required CRR is marginal cost divided by 1 minus CRR percent. There is a calculation on which it is there, and this factor also contributes to the MCLR. The third factor is the operating cost. Every deposit, every loan taken by the bank has a cost to the bank. Not only interest on borrowings, not only interest paid on deposits, but also maintenance costs, cost of software, cost of staff, cost of maintenance, and all these things are there. So all these costs minus the cost of raising the fund and the service charges, less the service charges, we have got the operating cost, which will add to the MCLR. Now, the most important thing in MCLR is that was not there in the prime lending rate or in any other rate too, is the tenor premium. Tenor, the word tenor has come from the word tenure or the period of the loan. You will be quite appreciate that the longer is the loan, the more is the risk to the bank, or the longer is the cost, the more is the cost to the bank. You may be taking a loan for 10 years, but the bank is giving you that loan from the deposits of people who can demand it any time. So the tenor premium, the premium for the tenor of the loan will also contribute to the MCLR. Now banks, according to Reserve Bank of India, directors of Reserve Bank of India, up to now, for the prime lending rate and all these rates, there were no tenor. You take the loan for 1 day, you take the loan for 10 days, you take the loan for 5 years, take the loan for 25 years. There was only one MCLR. Now, there was only one prime lending rate, but it is not so with the MCLR. Bank shall publish internal benchmark for the following maturities. Reserve Bank of India has prescribed that every bank will publish its MCLR for 5 maturities of loans. That is for overnight, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and above. Now, so up to now, in the prime lending rate, we had only one internal benchmark rate. Now, in the MCLR, we'll have minimum 5 benchmarks. Overnight benchmark, 1 month benchmark, 3 month benchmark, 6 month benchmark, and 1 year benchmark. The Reserve Bank of India has also prescribed that banks may also publish MCLR of longer maturities if they so desire. But these 5 maturities which have been prescribed is compulsory. Now we have arrived at the MCLR, marginal cost of funds, negative effect of CRR, operating cost, and tenor premium. By doing this, we get for 5 maturity periods 5 MCLR rates. Now, is it this final rate? No, it is the benchmark rate. This is not the rate at which the bank is going to give you the loan. The bank is going to give you the loan by adding spread premium to this MCLR. What is spread premium? Spread premium depends on the customer, on his business strategy. What is his business? Is he qualified for the business? Has he an experience? Is the owner? And many other factors that are worked out. And also credit risk premium. What is credit risk premium? What is the credit risk? The loan that is given to you. Credit risk is the probability of the loan not being repaid. So credit risk is arrived for every loan. There is a particular method of calculation, and depending on various factors of the business and the person who is conducting the business, this business strategy and credit risk premium is calculated and is added to the MCLR to arrive at the interest that can be charged from the customer. So the interest rate on loans will be based on MCLR and spread. There will be no lending below MCLR for a particular maturity. Now, there are certain loans that are exempted from the preview of MCLR. Loans covered by schemes specially formulated by the Government of India, wherein banks have to charge interest rate as per the scheme, are exempted from being linked to MCLR as the benchmark for determining interest rate. Now, these exemptions from MCLR could cover some questions that could be asked to you by IBPS. So, please remember the exemptions. I am sure you understand what is this MCLR all about. And now, please follow me with the exemptions from MCLR. Loans covered by schemes specially formulated by Government of India, wherein banks have to charge interest rate as per the scheme, are exempted from being linked to MCLR as the benchmark for determining interest rate. There is a differential rate of interest scheme of the government, where the poorest of the poor are given loan and they are charged 4% interest. So this cannot be covered under MCLR. Working capital term loan, funded interest term loan, granted as part of rectification, restructuring package are exempted from MCLR for determining interest rate. Then loans granted under various refinance schemes formulated by the Government of India or the government undertakings, wherein banks charge interest at the rates prescribed under the schemes to the extent refinance is available and exempted from being linked to MCLR as the benchmark for determining interest rate. Now you know that refinance is given for agricultural lending. Government of India provides refinance for agricultural lending. So any interest that is charged on agriculture is governed by this and cannot be governed by MCLR benchmark. Interest rate charged as a part not covered under refinance should adhere to MCLR guideline. If there is any part of the loan that is not under refinance, it will adhere to the MCLR guidelines. Then the following categories of loan can be priced without being linked to MCLR as benchmark for determining interest rate. These are certain loans that cannot be linked to MCLR. These are advances to bank depositors against their own deposits. As you know, that when we take loan based on our own deposits, the bank charges us 1% above the deposit rate. So if we have got a FDR at 7% and we want to take loan on it, the loan charged by the bank will be at 7 plus 1, that is 8%, and MCLR will have got nothing to do with it. Advances by banks to its own employees, including retired employees. There are certain loans that are given by certain banks to their own employees, particularly a housing loan and vehicle loan, on which the rate of interest is different and is not based on MCLR. Advances granted to Chief Executive Officer, full-time directors. Loan linked to a market-determined external benchmark. When loan is based on a market-determined external benchmark, MCLR is an internal bank's benchmark. It is not a market-determined external benchmark. We will be talking about this market-determined external benchmark further after some time. Now, meantime, when loans are linked to market-determined external benchmark, MCLR will not apply. Fixed rate loans granted by banks. There are certain loans that are granted by banks that are at a fixed rate of loan. In case of hybrid loans, where interest rates are partly fixed and partly floating, interest rate on floating portion should adhere to MCLR. If the interest loan is at a floating rate, then MCLR will be there. If it is a fixed rate, then the MCLR will not apply. Now, once MCLR is fixed, it is not that it is fixed forever. Since the rate, the market rate of money is fluctuating very, very quickly. It's a very fluid rate nowadays. So, Reserve Bank of India has made it compulsory on the banks to review and publish the MCLR of different maturities every month on a pre-decided date. Every month, banks have to review the MCLR and publish their new rate or the same rate if they have reviewed it after review on a pre-decided date. Banks have generally chosen 1st of every month as the pre-decided date, and on 1st of every month we generally get the new or revised MCLR of the bank that is applicable for the coming month. Reset of interest rates. Now, a person, you give him interest under, you set his interest under MCLR, and your MCLR is going down and is not getting any benefit. To prevent that, Reserve Bank has prescribed that the banks will reset their interest rate. Banks may specify interest reset dates on floating rate loans. Banks will have the option to offer loans with reset dates linked either to the date of sanction of the loan or to the date of review of MCLR. So, banks have to prescribe dates on which they will reset the floating rate of interest. The marginal cost of fund based lending rate prevailing on the date of the loan sanction will be applicable till the next reset date, irrespective of the changes in the benchmark during the interim. Now, if their reset date has been prescribed by the bank and they fix your MCLR on your loan, the same MCLR will continue till the next reset date, even though in between the MCLR changes. The periodicity of reset shall be 1 year or lower. Now, Reserve Bank has also prescribed, it is not that the bank say that I will reset your loan after 10 years. The periodicity of the reset has to be 1 year or lower. So, the maximum time for reset is 1 year. It cannot be more than that. The periodicity of reset shall form the part of terms of the contract. It will be written in the contract what are the terms of the reset. Now, what will happen to existing borrowers? How will can they go to MCLR? The Reserve Bank has further said that existing loans and credit limits linked to the base rate may continue till repayment or renewal as the case may be. We know that certain loans like the cash credit and all have to be renewed periodically. Reserve Bank has prescribed that whenever there is a renewal, MCLR rate will come into effect. Banks will continue to review and publish base rate as here too. Existing borrowers will also have the option to move to marginal cost of fund based lending rate linked to a mutually acceptable terms. However, this should not be treated as foreclosure of existing. Reserve Bank of India has also given the facility to borrowers to switch on to a marginal cost of fund based lending rate from the base rate if they are willing to go after consultation with their bankers. We may summarize that. Now we may summarize the entire MCLR. All rupee loans sanctioned and credit limits renewed with effect from 1st April 2016 will be priced with reference to the marginal cost of fund based lending rate, which will be an internal benchmark for the purpose. It is an internal benchmark rate of every bank. Every bank will have its own internal benchmark rate. The MCLR will be a tenor-linked internal benchmark. As I told you, there will be 5 compulsory tenors and the MCLR will be based on the tenor. Actual lending rates will be determined by adding components or spread to the MCLR. Banks will review and publish the MCLR of different maturities every month on a pre-announced date. It is generally the first of the month. Banks may specify interest reset dates on the floating rate loan. They will have the option to offer rates on reset either on the date of sanction of the loan or the credit limits or on the review of MCLR. The periodicity of reset will be 1 year or lower. You see, you cannot have an indefinite period. It has to be 1 year or lower. The MCLR prevailing on the date of the loan is sanctioned will be applicable till the next reset date, irrespective of the changes in the benchmark during the interim period. Existing loans and credit limits linked to base rate may continue till repayment or renewal, as the case may be. Existing borrowers will also have the option to move to the marginal cost of fund based lending rate on mutually acceptable terms. Banks will continue to review and publish the base rate as here too. So this is the marginal cost of fund lending rate. Now this MCLR after 1st April 2016, as it has been applied by the banks, certain drawbacks have emerged. What are the drawbacks? Arbitrariness in calculating the MCLR and spreads charged by them has undermined the integrity and interest rate setting process. Now, banks have become very arbitrary, you know. They are being forced to draw the MCLR which they find is lower than their base rate. But what they have done, the spreads, they have worked on the spreads, and since the spread is more, sometimes we have found that even the MCLR based lending rate has become more than the base rate. Second, reduction in MCLR does not simultaneously reflect on the interest rate of the borrower. Now, MCLR, reduction of MCLR, as we know that till the reset period it cannot change, so it does not reflect on the interest rate of the borrower. Suppose I take a loan today, MCLR is set today, tomorrow the repo rate goes down, and due to which the MCLR goes down, I am denied a simultaneously lower rate for at least 1 year. MCLR is based on the current interest rate in the entire bucket of deposit. As such, all long-term deposit will strain the net interest margin. Now what happens? For the banks, they have to determine the MCLR as per the current interest rate. However, for old deposits, they are paid higher rates, due to which what will happen? The MCLR is low, the deposit rates are high, so the net interest margin will be affected. Net interest margin is, what is net interest margin? Net interest margin is the margin of profit between the interest rate on loans and the deposit rate on the interest rate on deposits. Resetting of interest rate for remaining tenure of long-term loan is not clear. How do you reset interest rate for remaining long-term loans? Generally, for long-term loans like housing loan, the 1 year benchmark rate is being used by several banks. Now, what happens? Every once in a year, you have to reset the rate. And when you reset the rate, the tenure is going down. Suppose you take a housing loan for 15 years. After 5 years of reset, the tenure has gone down to 10 years. Now, when the tenure has gone down, your interest rate should also affect, but it does not affect because your MCLR is based on a 1 year interest rate, because that is the maximum rate that is made compulsory by the tenure rate that is made compulsory by the Reserve Bank of India. So, as my tenure or loan goes down, I do not benefit from the lower interest rate. Drawbacks of the MCLR scheme. Quantum of fixed rate loans that can be given by a bank is not limited. Problems arise by hedging interest rate risk in such loans. Fixed rate loans. Quantum of fixed rate loans, if banks give fixed rate loans, then the amount of fixed rate loan is not limited, and how do you take loan, how do you take interest for such loans is not clear. Then there is no compensation. Now for negative carry on of CRR, we are compensated. We have added it to MCLR, but we have not added negative carry on account of statutory liquidity ratio and liquidity coverage ratio. So this statutory liquidity ratio and liquidity coverage ratio also locks up the funds of the bank, for which bank does not earn anything. And these are cumulatively more than 28% in many banks, due to which banks are losing their profits. Recently, because of the drawbacks of the MCLR mechanism, the Reserve Bank of India appointed a panel to consider how this MCLR could be made more effective, more right, more correct, and this panel has given certain suggestions. The first suggestion given by the panel is LIBOR, that is London Interbank Offered Rate, is the most widely used benchmark to price borrowings. It is preferred in 90% of interest rate derivative contracts, 30 to 50% corporate loans, 84% floating rate bonds, and 15% real mortgages all over the world. LIBOR rate. So LIBOR is not based on the internal benchmark of the bank. It is an external benchmark rate. LIBOR is not based on the deposit of the bank or the lending of the bank or anything. So it is an external benchmark rate. However, there is a trend to move away from using interbank offered rate codes for loan pricing. However, there is a worldwide trend to move away from the LIBOR. The second suggestion given by the panel was that Reserve Bank of India's repo rate may be recommended as the new external benchmark to price loan rates, including home loans. No more frequent periodicity of repricing. Repricing is repricing. So here they are saying that the repo rate of the Reserve Bank of India may be used as an external benchmark to price loan rates. Instead of LIBOR, we can use RBI rate, RBI's repo rate, as the external benchmark to price loan rates. Interest rate on treasury bills and certificates of deposits have also been suggested as external benchmark for fixing loan rates. They have also said the external interest rate on treasury bills and certificate of deposits could also be used as external benchmark for fixing loan rates. The panel suggested that banks should raise deposits on floating rates. To keep in touch with these suggestions, the panel has also suggested that banks should raise deposits on floating rates instead of fixed rates nowadays. An external benchmark makes pricing of loans fairer and cost of borrowers more simultaneously. So, an external benchmark is a better alternate to the MCLR rate, and it may be that in the near future the external benchmark rate like repo rate or the rates of treasury bills, open market operations, anything may be taken as the base for pricing loans. Thank you.